In this video, I'm going to tell you why, even though Google Meet Premium is a wonderful product, why this is a bait and switch and you should avoid getting it for free. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Seth Estrada, and in this video, I'm going to talk to you about video chat applications. In the last video, you saw me dump Zoom, and you saw me promote a product called Jami at jami.net. Now, hot on the heels of my video, I don't think that Google was watching mine. I'm sure this is something that everybody's talking about, but Google has announced that Google Meet, its premium video sharing application or video chat application, is going to be free for everyone for a limited time. Now, let's take a look at the terms of this, and I want to talk to you about a comprehensive sort of good, bad, and ugly list, or good, bad, and I'm going to say, I don't know, just plain dumb list. But I've already prepared that, so let's go through and just kind of see what is Google Meet all about anyway. Now, some things that have come to light with recent events concerning Zoom is that some of the passwords for their meetings are insecure, or some of the different Zoom conference rooms are insecure, so people will jump in and they will screen share some kind of lewd material, or they'll do something that's really inappropriate and they'll disrupt corporate events or corporate meetings. So this has turned a lot of people off to Zoom, but it also turns out that almost 500,000 passwords, usernames and passwords were leaked from Zoom. So there's a lot about Zoom that is insecure and that people are just not happy with. Beyond that, they don't offer end-to-end encrypted video chats. So I looked at that and thought, even though there are a couple of features that make Zoom very nice for media producers, it's just not worth supporting them anymore. That I needed to make a public stance against using Zoom for now. Maybe they'll come back in the future, maybe this time next quarter or next year. Zoom will revise their product and make it much more secure. I highly doubt it. But in the meantime, Google saw the bad press for Zoom, and they announced that Google Meet would be free for everyone. So Google Meet is the video sharing application, as you can see right here. If you haven't used it before, this is a screen share right here, screen grab. You can see there's somebody video chatting. There's a microphone button to mute yourself. There's an end call button. There's a video button to either mute your video or to enable a different webcam. There are captions enabled real time, which is kind of amazing considering what you're working with, but you can have Google's servers real time transcribe your speech to text and turn it into captions. And then you can present and do screen sharing. All of this inside of a web browser if it's based on Google Chrome, or Chromium. So something like what I'm using right now, Brave, would work just fine. Now, I think this is probably fine for the majority of users. However, I'm concerned because Google in the past has done a lot of bait and switch when it comes to giving away a nice product, but then using that product or the edge of that product to track its users. I'll explain as we go. But let's talk about what's good about this offering. They say it's very secure, and this is what they say in their own words. We provide a strong set of host controls, so admitting or denying entry to certain users of a meeting and then muting or removing those participants if you need to. Don't allow anonymous users, so people have to authenticate. They say that their meeting codes are complex and really difficult to guess using even brute force techniques that a computer would be really good at. So people can't just force their way into a meeting or easily guess, even with a computer. They say the video meetings are encrypted in transit, but recordings that are stored in Google Drive are encrypted in transit and at rest. That's a pretty big deal for some video chat applications. But what they're saying is it's not always fully encrypted, but it can be encrypted conditionally. Now, that's a step in the right direction, but it's not full end-to-end encryption. Just to be clear, it's not full end-to-end encryption. There's still quite a bit, and we'll talk about this as we go, that comes down to user behavior. And it says doesn't require plugins, so just works on the web. So any Chromium-based browser will run Google Meet. And then it says on mobile, they have a dedicated Google Meet app in both the App Store and the Google Play Store. So on phones, of course, you cannot just run this in the browser. You have to use an app. Then they say users can enroll their account in Google's Advanced Protection Program. And we'll show that in a minute as well. It's not everything it's cracked up to be, and I don't know that it's necessarily broadly available to everyone. And then they say that their Google Cloud undergoes regular security and privacy audits, and that they are GDPR, HIPAA, COPPA, and FERPA compliant. And they claim that your Meet data is not used for advertising, and they don't sell your data to third parties. All right, let's get down to the list. And actually first, I'll bring open Jami.net. Now Jami.net is end-to-end encrypted. It's distributed. It's free and open source. There are no limits at all to any of the services, and there never have been, and there never will be. So for Google Meet, sometime in September, the free trial will end for professional users. For individual users, it's not clear whether or not Google will extend that trial, but September is the hard cutoff date for any pro users who are wanting to take Google up on this offer. Jami.net will not expire, right? There won't be an expiration to the unlimited nature of using it. It will always be ad-free, and your data, because it's encrypted and because it doesn't require a central registration, is not even a piece of info that could be worth anything to the developers of Jami.net. And then scheduling this in whatever scheduling tools you use, whether they're Google-based or not, can't be leveraged by Jami.net. It's always private, and it's always anonymous because you can register using a username and a password, not necessarily using an email account. You don't even have to register using a SIM-enabled device, like a phone or a SIM-enabled tablet or laptop. So broadly compatible across devices as well, including Android TV. So you can install it on a larger device with a much larger screen for video conferencing in that way, and have that be very useful for larger corporate use. So Jami is a bit different, and of course it's got great press that shows this off. Recently, I'm just going to go on a little bit of a tech tangent here and just say the HEVC codec, or H.265, imagine getting full HD resolutions, so 1080p resolutions, at half the data rate that you would for typical streaming media. That's what you get with H.265. This is a really big deal. And most modern phones and most modern computers, desktop computers, can compress this media on the fly, like real time, without any kind of a performance hit. So it's great that Jami, an open source project, supports this. It's a very, very big deal. So even if you have low bandwidth, maybe low internet bandwidth, or a metered internet connection because you live in a place like Canada that meters your internet, then you can use this tool and it won't cause problems there, right? It's very lightweight. So I didn't put this on the list yet, but let's go over this really fast. I'm going to put it on the list of good here. So H.265 compression for better performance. That's there on the list. But Google Meet, and I hope people forgive the crudeness of my little breakdown here, but the good, Google Meet definitely does have a lot good going for it. So only lets in people you want, but oh, wait a second. The same is true of Jami.net. It says no randos that they need to authenticate. That's also true for Jami.net. They have to be an authenticated user, and you have to let them in. Say meeting codes are complex, and well, the same is true of Jami.net, but they're as complex as you want. Now, the other problem, the problem here, though, already starting off to have a divergence here between the two products. But with Google Meet, yeah, there are no randos. They have to authenticate, but they must have a Google account. That's no ifs, ands, or buts. If you want to use Google Meet, you must be a Google user, period. You can't use a third-party email to log in. You have to create one just for Google. So you're locked into their ecosystem now. And everything else that you do, including email, calendars, Google Docs, Hangouts, or any other product aside from Meet, that does give what's called telemetry data, or info points right here that indicate metadata, right? It indicates that there's been something else that goes on, including one of these Google Meets, that tells advertisers everything they need to know about your private life. They don't need to see your entire Google Meet in order to know kind of what the indications and implications are of the rest of your life. There's a bit of a data footprint for you with all the other services that Google offers. So they can claim that they don't sell this data, but they don't have to sell this data in order for your data in the Google ecosystem to be valuable. And so they require it to use Google Meet. Jami.net doesn't require a Google account. They say it's encrypted in transit, which basically means not fully end-to-end encrypted. we'll just break that down a little more. It can be encrypted in transit, but it's not encrypted at rest on both ends. So somebody who is receiving your video, you don't know whether or not it's encrypted on their end. Jami.net is encrypted end-to-end. But let's talk about that too. I'm using OBS, a free and open source screen recording and broadcasting software. And OBS Studio, I can record anything on my screen. It could be that anybody that you're video chatting with, even using a tool like Jami.net, is recording your screen, and that the chain of encryption and the chain of security stops there. So user behavior is a pretty big deal. I just want to be very open about that. There's no free lunch when it comes to security. You have to be vigilant, right? It always costs you a little bit of extra attention to make sure that your media and that your personal data is private and secure. It's not easy, is what I'm saying. But Google does not guarantee that Google Meet is fully end-to-end encrypted. Jami.net does. And that could be broken, though, by somebody recording the screen and then making it insecure in some way. So as far as there being a dedicated app, well, Jami does require a dedicated app both for phones and for the desktop. But that's actually good because it assists in the encryption. You know that this app is secure in the way that it encrypts and decrypts the incoming signal. The browser may or may not be so secure because you may have third-party plugins installed on Chrome or a variant of Chrome like Chromium, like Brave, that makes it less secure and makes your actually does screen record without you knowing. So there are all kinds of things that could go wrong using a browser because you have third-party plugins. So Jami.net, being a dedicated application, you know only does one thing, and that's fully end-to-end encrypted video chat and screen sharing. So that's another thing in favor of Jami.net. Having it be an app that's required for all users, not just mobile users. Well, and you'll hear me talk about this a lot, but because Google Meet is closed source, they say it's been audited. They say that they do regular privacy audits, but they can't be audited by third-party developers or just any casual observer who has enough development knowledge to audit the code because it's not open source. So yeah, it's probably GDPR, HIPAA, COPPA, and FERPA compliant if users store their files in a compliant way. If they store their files in Google Drive in a non-compliant way, again, it's user behavior. So if you have a teacher or a doctor or a politician who stores these files in a non-secure way, I mean, think about this, email servers in the wrong place or at home in an insecure way, this can, we've seen news about this before. There are ways in which users can take something that even though it should be compliant, they make it non-compliant. And the same is basically true of Jami.net as well, right? So users have to store their files in a compliant way, but because it's open source, we know that the end-to-end encryption is definitely GDPR, HIPAA, COPPA, and FERPA compliant, at least until it comes down to users storing the video files. Then it's up to them, right? So that much is secure. And then again, I put this on the list right here, H.265 compression or HEVC compression for better performance on the web, right? File sizes that are half of what the previous generation of video compression was, and cleaner video streaming. So you see a really clear signal always, even when you have a really bad internet connection, you see a very clear signal on your end. Using technology that people understand, not some weird codec like Zoom that people don't know. This is an open and available standard that people can look up. So again, the bad on Google Meet, it's only for Google users. It's not end-to-end encrypted fully. It's encrypted in transit, but it's not necessarily encrypted end-to-end fully at rest for all users. And for Jami.net, yes, it is fully end-to-end encrypted, but in both cases, if somebody's screen recording, all bets are off. So, be mindful of the fact that anyone can do that who's included in the call for Jami.net. If they are a member, a participating member of your video chat, they could be screen recording. You won't know. Talk about stuff that's just dumb. On Google Meet, the advanced protection, it's just for some users. Let's take a look at that really fast. I want to show you what I mean. So right here, they go out of their way to call out under the security list right here that enrolling in Google's advanced protection program. Well, what is the advanced protection program? They say it's their strongest security for those who need it most. Well, what if everybody needs security? What if every product that people interact with on the web just needs to be secure? That's the question that I pose to everyone. Why? Who doesn't need their data to be secure? Is there anybody who doesn't need their data to be secure? Okay, teenagers and children. Well, they're minors. Of course they need their data to be secure. We don't want to exploit the lives of young people because we somehow value their life yet less. We don't want photos of young people being leaked to unknown third parties for them to go manipulate in Photoshop or something. There's enough exploitation, real world pain in the world that we don't need to add to it by giving away people's information for free. So I don't know who needs security more than the average person. If you don't make the average person's security and privacy paramount, then I don't know how you value anybody else's security or privacy. Just my take on it. Maybe I have a skewed worldview. You tell me down in the comments. Do you think there are people who don't need the strongest security that companies like Google or the Big Four have to offer? Is there anybody who doesn't merit high security? I don't think that's true. I think it's a false statement to begin with, false premise to begin with, and to build on. And they talk about how specifically journalists, activists, business leaders, and political campaign teams. Well, what if I'm a citizen journalist? What if I'm an activist because I have a worldview that is different enough from mainstream politicians that voting or being vocal in a specific way on social media makes me appear to be an activist? Doesn't that mean that I merit high security? Journalism, I mean, even this very page right here, back on the announcement for Google Meet. Technically, this is being published on a blog, not a journal. Technically, it's a blog, which is, you know, some people would view a lesser form of journalism, but it is the modern day form of journalism. We view bloggers as the modern day journalists. So I just don't know that I understand this premise at all. I think it's faulty to begin with. And political campaign teams, I'm sorry, but there are a lot of grassroots political campaign teams and super PACs comprised of people who are largely volunteers at first and maybe then start to work long term for political figures. And in the United States, politicians and their teams, they shouldn't always be represented by multi-million and $10 million funds and campaigns that drag on for years. So I don't know. I don't know that this is the correct foundation for an argument for security and privacy. So that's my fundamental misgiving about what Google is offering there. So they only offer, it's only for Google users, and then their advanced protection is only for some users? I don't understand why that would be. Beyond that, Google claims that no data from the product is being used for advertising or data brokering. But the problem with that is that Google, Apple, Microsoft, and Facebook in particular, they haven't always been totally forthcoming about what data they do use, what data they do monetize by selling it or by using it for advertising. So if there's telemetry data that's on the fringes that creates a metadata fingerprint and kind of indicates that people are using this product, well, it almost doesn't matter if I know what you said on a phone call, if I know who you said it to, what time of day you said it to, where you were in the world when you said it, and how long you were talking to say it. If that makes sense. If I know those data points, it's a good bet that I'll figure out what you said. If that makes sense. I don't have to have the screen recording to figure out all the other stuff. So having unencrypted communication to set up your meeting is already a problem. All right, so I've been kind of drawing this out quite a bit. I hope this is helpful. Let me know in the comments section if you have questions about why I brought up this point or why I brought up these points and why I'm so fired up about this particular thing. I'll tell you right now, in part, it's because I see that there's a very usable alternative to Zoom and a very usable alternative to Google Meet. If you're on mobile, you have to download a client anyway. You may as well make it one that you know is secure, because desktop users also have to download a dedicated client that secures end-to-end encryption and uses best practices and is openly auditable for anybody to audit who has the skill to review code. And anyone can contribute to if they have the skill to contribute to it. All right. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. Again, let me know what questions you have down in the comment section. Do you want to see more videos like this? I'm very passionate about this topic. It's in part what got me involved in cryptocurrency before. That and, the allure of at-home mining. But cryptocurrency, Bitcoin in particular, and then privacy-oriented currencies like Monero, and then tokenized assets on platforms like Ethereum or like Ravencoin, I think they're phenomenal. I think they're extremely, extremely promising. I should also mention platforms that are turning into ecosystem and platform level cryptos like Zelle. They're doing phenomenal work. So shout out to the Zelle team that's doing phenomenal work there. There's so many exciting cryptocurrencies, and this focus on privacy is just it's a continuation of that focus for me on cryptocurrency. I think that there's a lot of growth that the mainstream has in this area if we choose to. Okay, if you think, okay, well, open source stuff isn't sexy enough. Well, make it sexy. Right here, look, there's a button that says contribute. What can you do to help it? What can you do to help make this better? You can offer suggestions to Apple or Microsoft or Google or Facebook or Twitter or other platforms, and maybe they'll listen to you. In the open source community, you can actually create this change that you want to see and then offer it to the community. And if they do adopt it, your name is on it. How cool is that? You can make new logos. You can make new user interfaces. You can adjust the way things are done inside of applications and protocols if you want to see them change. And I really think that the mainstream needs to see more free and open source software adoption. All right, my dog's complaining. I gotta go. But guys, thank you so much for being involved. Thank you so much for hitting that like button, for being subscribed to the channel and clicking the bell icon so you know when new media comes out. You're the reason I make this media. I love your face, and I will see you in the next one.